Fashion besties, what is happening? It is your best friend you never knew you needed in fashion, Holly Cates of Holly Cates Styling and the Fashion Crimes podcast, the only podcast that is fashion over 40, and I mean way over 40. So we've had a lot of great things going on. We had what to wear for New Year's. We had Hallie Borenstein. We had spring and winter trends that you need to know about. That was very informative. Hope you hit up those episodes. But today we've got a great interview of somebody who I found very inspiring. Fashion besties, I want you to welcome a very warm welcome to Julie Myers. I said
Jade.
Julie. Why did I just say that? Because I was talking about
It's
Julie
Julie, because
Lamb.
we're talking about Julie Lamb.
I know. John, scratch that. I want to give a huge Fashion Crimes podcast welcome to Jade Myers of Fashion Without Trashin of New York City. Welcome, Jade,
Hi,
to the
thanks for
Fashion Crimes.
having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are super stoked to have you here. I have totally stalked you on Instagram for sure. I contacted you. You were such a doll, and you are a sustainable expert and a clothing reseller. That's what turned me
Yeah.
on about you. And I want you to introduce yourself a little bit more detail, please, so people can understand what you do, how you started, and the beginning of our beautiful budding friendship. Hit it.
So my name is Jade Myers. I'm from Los Angeles, but I live here in New York. Now I've been here for almost 15 years. So I definitely call this home. I'm putting the official New Yorker stamp on myself. But I have been working in fashion sustainability literally since I was a child. Before it was called sustainability, before the idea of making clothing sustainable was even a thing. And it's really because it was before fast fashion was such a thing, right? But I started out by reselling things at the swap meets in Los Angeles. So at the flea markets and swap meets when I was just a little kid, my mother and grandmother used to do it as well. So we would lay out a sheet, you would put your stuff out there, you would sell your stuff for the day. I would mostly take the little monies that I would make to go buy Barbies afterwards, naturally. And then, I would go home and use the scraps from old clothes to make new clothes for my Barbies. So it was kind of a very full circle thing for me. And a lot of the clothing that I wore as a kid was secondhand. We did a lot of shopping at thrift stores. So it's just something that I kind of grew up with. And then it naturally evolved when my dad was selling guitars on eBay. And he was like, hey, do you want to come model the guitar for me? Or do you want to help me, list this on eBay? And I was like, sure, let me check that out. And then I was like, hey, can I buy clothes on here? Can we buy other stuff? And he's like, yeah. So I remember buying something, I think it was a Roxy t-shirt. And I know somewhere I have a picture of this too, but my best friend was borrowing it. She borrowed this t-shirt. It was very popular. And I resold it by modeling it afterwards, after I wore it. And then I sold it for more. And I was like, oh, a little light went off. And I was like, I could actually make some money by selling my secondhand clothes. And I was only 14 at the time. So it was pretty exciting for me. And that just sort of started it all for me basically with clothing resale. From then on, I have gone on to work with countless amounts of clothing collection agencies, nonprofits, small thrift stores, helping them sort through clothing or learn about what is resellable versus not resellable. I have worked with over 500 small business resellers throughout the United States and Canada through the pandemic. I helped supply them with product when thrift stores and things weren't open. So getting product to their door so that they could continue on working during that time. And I think some things that a lot of people don't realize that a lot of resellers are sometimes reselling out of a necessity because they are a stay-at-home mom and they can't also pay for the care of the kids and go to work. So they have to choose one or the other. So this is a really great way for them to supplement their income while still being with their kids. Some people are handicapped and can't get out and thrift or can't get out and do certain types of jobs. And this is a great way for them to supplement their income. Some people are retired. Some people need to stay home for mental health reasons. And this is a way for them to continue working from home when they couldn't work at their previous job. So being able to supply a lot of people with product for over a year was really fulfilling and helpful. So did that for a while. Then I went on to open a shop front, which I had for a few years, which was great. I loved that experience as well. And now I'm kind of back to my roots of just selling online and selling through social media and doing live sales and consulting whenever the opportunity arises. So, yeah.
That was so much better than what I could have ever said about you, just FYI. First of all, I want to start with the name. First of all, I love the name. I love the name so much. And I want you to dive a little deeper into the things that sell for you and your selection process. Are you buying clothes in bulk from other people, other companies, or are you strictly just selling stuff that you scout, like as one person?
So I do a multitude of ways of bringing in clothing and accessories, shoes, bags, etc. I always kind of say that you can't rely on one source. You should have, I say, at least like 7 to 10 sources at any given time that you can get inventory from. Every single year, I lose a source. Every single year, I gain a source. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit, hard to maintain them forever and ever. In my experience, sometimes I can have a really good source that I can be getting thousands of great pieces from that I'm sorting through, like raw product or donations. And then they will see me having some success with it. And then they decide to pivot their business to do what I'm
Ugh,
doing. That has happened to me like so many times,
I
but it's
mean,
okay. At the end of
right.
the day, my goal and my like life around my business has to do with getting things back into use. And sometimes people will say like, well, what are you going to do? Like when the real does, takes all the good stuff, or when ThreadUp takes all this stuff and, big company does all this. And I said, well, then my job is done.
Hmm.
If everything's
Hmm.
getting recycled and getting put back into use, then my job is done. I will find something else to do with myself. This has been my mission in life. And if I've spread it far and wide enough and been part of the solution for it, then my job is done. I'm happy. So I don't know, that idea doesn't really like bother me. I don't think about it too much,
I
because the
love
reality is I've been in the warehouses and there are in smaller warehouses millions of pounds every single week coming
it's
in.
it's just
It's
gross.
it's egregious.
That's the only thing I can say about it. It's so gross
It's a lot.
how much there is and how much gets shipped out to third world countries.
Yeah, which
And
is another issue.
it's just there is more than enough to go around the planet, like what was it, like four times or six times or something like that.
I'm sure
It
more than that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really sickening, and it takes a very trained eye to know what can sell and what sits there. Can you tell us some specifics that are top sellers for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing, I think is pretty obvious is things that are brand new, things that are new with tags, and things that are current season. So, things that I can resell that are still full price on the
Sure,
website.
sure.
This is a kind of a no-brainer, and that's, can be a little bit harder to come across. Although I do have clients where I get stuff like that from them.
Hmm.
Um, The other thing are things that aren't released in mass, right? Most things, from Pretty Little Thing or Shein or whatever. I mean, they're never going to hold any resale value because they are pumped out so quickly. They don't, have a lot of quality to the product, so they don't last many wears. And they never quite go to that cult following sort of direction, right? So some
Hmm.
brands have cult followings and then certain pieces from those brands, like let's give Cezanne as an example, Cezanne and Doen and things like this, where they make a certain amount, it comes out, and then they don't bring that thing back, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it can be a plain cream sweater, but it doesn't matter. It's Cezanne's plain cream sweater, and there are people who only want to wear Cezanne's plain cream sweater. So that will always resell for a certain amount, right? And that also has a lot to do with the marketing of the brands and their popularity. So, looking for those popular brands, those things that sell out quickly and don't get restocked, those things are definitely things that resell for a lot more. And there are just certain things that are kind of like favorites that last for many, many, many years. I would say that there's every piece of clothing is somebody's favorite piece of clothing somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, this old J. Crew dress from 2013, somebody may think like, oh, that's not worth anything. But then you list it and it sells for 50, 60, or $100 or something. And it's because somebody's favorite dress is that dress and they've been looking for it in their size for 3 years, and they eventually found it. And when they find it, they're going to buy it because they're like, this is the one I've been missing, right? Now, you can't always necessarily know which items are going to be that, but it happens. Another good thing to look for are just things that are made from quality materials. So you're talking about your cashmeres, wool, natural materials, linen, flax, cottons, etc. Those usually hold a pretty good resale value, even if they didn't retail for a ton of money, just because people like natural materials.
And like, did you learn just from trial and error, or did you? I know you said you sold your first t-shirt. Was it addicting? Like, what else can I find? I mean, because you were such a young age, $15 is a lot of money when you're 14
Yeah.
years old. So,
Yeah.
is that sort of how it happened?
For me, selling things was always kind of out of necessity. I was reselling things in grade school. I would go to the sticker store and buy the big fuzzy bunny stickers and
Yes.
other certain stickers and take them to school and sell them for double. They'd be 75 cents at the store and I'd sell them for $1.50, and then it would pay for my lunch. Um,
Love it.
I grew up pretty poor, so there wasn't money floating around for certain things. So I would like scrounge through the couch or find $1 here or there, snatch it and then go and sell it and flip it and try to make some money off of it. So I've always had that in me because I kind of needed to have it out of necessity. Um, and as I went into, was in high school, and I graduated at 16 and was moved out by the time I was turned 17. So I was graduated a year and a half early, turned 17. I was already living on my own with other girls. Like, I had a full-time job working at the grocery store. I was reselling a little bit, but I had to wait until I was 18 to even really be a waitress. So I was just kind of like in that limbo time to make some money. And then once I did, I needed money to go to school. I went to FITM for a while, and I studied fashion merchandising. I can't say I recommend the program. I don't think I liked it very much. I only stayed about a year and a half. But I had to pay for it all. I had to pay $3,000 a month in cash. So I had three jobs in addition to like reselling stuff, right? So I always kept reselling as a way to supplement my income until I was like 28. And then I decided, okay, I'm gonna just do it full time. I'm gonna try doing it full time. And thankfully it worked for me. And I've been doing it full time ever since. So,
Wow, what a story. What an incredible story. Our common thread is that I put myself through college as well. And
ugh.
again, I know, and I like to say I was on the 10-year plan because I took a lot of time off before I decided to go back and get my bachelor's. But the point is, I did fashion marketing and merchandising. I
Oh,
hated
wow.
it.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to be a buyer. And then I saw how much math and accounting was involved. I was like, girl, no. And then I decided to take a lot of time off because I was waitressing, bartending, all that. And then I went back and got my bachelor's. I got my BFA in fashion design because I was like, I'm just going to move to New York and be a fashion designer. Well, that didn't happen. I moved to New York and I did every job in fashion but design. So that to be said. So I totally understand and I get where you're coming from because fashion is very misleading. People think it's movies, magazines.
Yeah.
Fashion is a business. And it doesn't matter if you're selling lemonade, if you're selling tires, or if you're selling clothes. It is a
Yeah.
very similar business model.
And a cutthroat one at that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
I will have to say it is a very interesting journey that you've had because now you're so self-sufficient. You got your own place in New York. You had a store. You dabbled in that. And look how strong and resilient you are. So kudos to you for that, for being able to stand on your own. I mean, I lived in New York for several years and it's not easy. It's very, very hard. So
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. I can't imagine. That's so exciting that you said that we had similar hatred for fashion merchandising
Yeah,
marketing.
isn't that funny? And yeah,
Yeah.
I did work in some fashion jobs and I also worked in marketing, which I really loved. And I used to do like massive campaigns for big brands and marketing. We did experiential marketing, so it was really interesting. But I used to work in the Mercedes-Benz Fashion Weeks. You know, I used to help dress the models. I used to work for an event planning company in fashion, and I worked in a couple other fashion jobs as well. But the way that I was treated was such a turnoff to me. And then
Mhm.
seeing the amount of waste within those industries of
Mhm.
just money on things that people weren't even using and didn't even want, but then like the refusal to even pay people to do the job because there was this sense of like, you should be thankful to be here,
Oh,
right?
100%.
And I'm like, and then I watch them and they'll be like, we don't have a budget for you. But then I'll watch them spend, you know, tens, 20, $30,000 on like kazoos with their name on it for like, and I'm like,
That's funny.
what? Why are we making a keychain instead of paying somebody? You know what I mean? Like that. Nobody wants this keychain that's going to break in 2 weeks or whatever. And you literally watch it get handed out and you watch people drop it into the trash. And I remember trying to talk to some of the companies eventually and some of the agencies that I work for and be like, hey, can we do this type of giveaway? Can we do this type of thing where it's like more sustainable for this or that or whatever? And it was like, no, this is they were refusing to budge back then. And I think now they're a little bit more open. But I like to think that in some way I've played my part in creating that by sharing online and having my social media presence and having been talking about sustainability and textile waste and just waste in general for so many years now. Um, you know, everybody plays their part in helping raise awareness around it. And I think that it does change the industry and people's standards for what they're getting and giving out and stuff.
I love what you said. I love two things. What you said. What the one thing you said was about the waste. And it's one thing to have clothes in your closet that you don't wear, right? You give them to Goodwill, makes you feel better. What happens to things at Goodwill that never get sold? How do they change out their merchandise and what do they do?
I have even worse news for you. So I actually worked for Goodwill for a little while, and I actually had them as a sponsor. I used to do something called the secondhand gift exchange that maybe someday I will bring back, but it was a lot of work. Um, uh, so with Goodwill in particular, and this is pretty similar with all of the larger donation-based charities, similar to Goodwill. When the stuff comes in, it doesn't all go into sorting to hit the floor. It's just simply too much volume. So some of it will be shipped out to stores that don't get as much
Sure.
inventory, but that is still a small amount. A massive amount of it gets shipped into a warehouse where it is baled. So it gets all thrown into these like large compacting balers, and basically everything that's in there just gets smashed down at a massive like, you know, thousands of psis, right,
Like
smashing it
vacuum sealed
into
almost,
this
right?
tiny cube where
Yeah.
it's, you know, then wrapped up. So anything that is like anything that's breakable is going to get broken. Anything that is glass or whatever, they try to sort that stuff out, but it will be broken. Heels and stuff like this all snap. So those all get broken. So a lot of like immediate waste happens, right? A, B, they do not sort these items before doing it. So for some of the agencies that collect things through the bins, like where you just open up a bin and throw stuff in there, those are probably the most disgusting that I've seen because there will be urine, there will
Ugh.
be, I've seen poop, I've
Oh,
seen
diapers, the whole thing.
diapers, I've
Uh-huh.
seen mold, I've seen
Hmm.
food rotting, and it all gets combined and baled together and then, you know, shipped overseas for like pennies on the dollar, right? And the saddest part of it to me is that once it gets there, is that people bid on this, right? Like hoping to open it and have the stuff for their markets to sell. And you can get a bad bale where basically it's
Hmm.
rotted out. It's
Hmm.
rotted because the mold has gone throughout it or it was wet inside or it's stink, you know, it's like it's disgusting. And so then you have nothing to sell and it's like a waste of your money even, which can be really detrimental to somebody who is using, you know, a large chunk of their money to buy this bale for their entire month of work or whatever it may be. So some stuff that you will donate will never even make it to the store, will never even make it to the eyes or hands of somebody to sort it. So it will just get baled and shipped overseas. And that is millions and millions and millions of pounds of it. if it does make it into the stores to get sorted, um, they don't, in my experience, at least when I was there, they don't really have a lot of experience in what they're looking for or doing. And it's kind of based off of very loose ideas. They'll be like, "Oh, this looks nice. Let's put a $50 price tag on it." Or, "Oh, this looks like whatever. Let's put a $100 price tag on it." And that's because there's an incentivization for the management, not for the regular workers, but for the management. If they have higher sales, they can actually get bonuses. So they are incentivized to try and like make things cost more to make more money for the store. Okay, I understand that, but there's not a lot of work that goes into the education of what should be priced and why it should be priced that way, or authentication. And that's one of my biggest gripes is that they will put stuff out there being like, here's a Louis Vuitton bag and it's fake, but they're charging $150 for it. And there are plenty of consumers who do not know how to authenticate a Louis Vuitton bag, or maybe never owned a Louis Vuitton bag and are like, oh my gosh, this is my chance to own one for $150. And they buy it and it's fake. First of all, it's illegal to do that. Second of all, it's a bit icky, to not follow through with the work that's needed in order to earn that amount from that product that's coming in. It's a little bit false advertisement to your consumers, customers, etc. And then they don't allow you to return it. It's a little
Of
bit
course.
intense.
Yeah. You have
Um,
to sell it
so
back to them.
right, donate it back to them. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So if you make it onto the floor and you get purchased, great. If it doesn't, then it will go to a um like a bulk sale company. So, well, they have like these big outlets called the Goodwill outlets, or, other places have different things called different things. So go to these bulk places where people literally, I have scars on my hand. Well,
Oy.
these are from a cat, but this one right here is a scar from somebody scratching me at one of these places. I've been punched in the back of the head while being there. People will pull you, claw you, push you. It can get very, very, very intense at these places because people want to go in, scoop out, put it into a thing. They work in teams as well. A lot of people, it's really can be very aggressive. And the funny part is like these teams who are working there are generally working for a thrift store or like a higher end store. And so they're looking for certain things for that store and they're being paid by the item.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like a set price per the item, which is again really crazy because these things are worth a lot more as well. So there's so many different rackets. I think it's kind of intense. So it'll go there, and if it doesn't sell there, then it goes in the trash. I've also seen though when they are sorting in the back room and they just get new stuff in and they just don't know what it is and it goes into the trash. And I remember pulling so many things out, being like, oh my God, how could you be putting this in the trash? And one of my favorite things that I ended up keeping was this little like bird in a cage, and it's from like 1800s Germany, and it still works. It needs cleaning or whatever, but it's like this amazing antique that's worth like $1,000. But because they don't have any experience or training and stuff like this, some stuff they just think like, oh, it's trash. Oh, nobody's gonna want this. Oh, whatever. And so they're just tossing it into these trash bins, and it's really, really sad. A lot of glassware and stuff goes in there as well. It's devastating, devastating to watch.
You
And they
think
won't give it away for free. They won't allow free tables. They won't even they won't even consider it. It sucks.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The people who work at Goodwill are not fashion people. Okay? I mean, clearly.
Not
And
always.
so
Sometimes.
how are they expected if I give them three garbage bags full of clothes that don't fit me anymore or I don't like anymore or whatever, how are they expected to know what's good and what's not good? I mean,
So basically right now what they do is kind of they put up signs in the back rooms that have like the
mm,
logos or the names of the brands, and they're kind of like, oh, memorize these brands, or if you see these brands, price them higher or put them in this other bin, and then
got
somebody
it.
like a manager will come through and price those separately. And then they go out onto the floor. But if you've been to the Goodwills in New York City, it is out of control. I mean, you will
Ugh.
see,
They're so
you
much better
know,
than Atlanta. I'm just saying, so much better.
I don't know. I haven't shopped at Atlanta's once, but I just know they're so expensive here. Like, I mean, I've gone in there and seen dresses for like $400. They're like, oh, it was originally $1,000. And I'm like, it's broken. Like it's
But it's
staying.
Goodwill.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this is, this is confusing. But they see they'll even like sometimes tape a picture up of, oh, it's on eBay for this price, and it's like, if you see something selling for a price that is not sold, it does not mean that it's going to sell for that price. It is like super, anybody can price anything for whatever they want, right? Doesn't mean it's going to sell for that price. The customer ultimately dictates whether or not something's worth something in resale. So that is always very confusing to me. And I'm like, but it might be in a different condition, could be in a different size. There are a lot of factors into why something might sell for more. And it could be the exact same item and it'll sell for less, you know? There could just be more of that size on the secondhand market than a different size, or less people looking in that size, or whatever it may be, you know? But certainly things with stains and holes
Tears
and
and yeah.
tears and all sorts of things. And they'll be like, oh, here's the retail. We're going to base it off the retail. And it's like, that's not how resale works anyways. There are plenty of things, again, that retail for very, very, very high prices that you will be very hard pressed to get even 5% of the retail price for on the resale market in perfect condition, in new tags condition. It's,
So,
you know,
Jade, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? Help us out.
that's the
What
question, right?
I know, what are we supposed to do with things that are in good condition that no longer serve us? What is your recommendation?
My genuine recommendation is, if you don't want to deal with it, if you don't want to resell it yourself, if you have no interest in that, you don't have time for that, which most people don't, right? If you have a full-time regular job, I don't blame you. I wouldn't do it either. It's time consuming. Is to link yourself up with somebody else who sells the stuff. Donate to an
Mm.
individual. Go on your buy nothing page on Facebook and say, hey, I have this. Does anybody want it? The worst case scenario there is that somebody takes it, takes out of it what they want, and then they donate it, right? So, like, at least some of it's going back into use. The best case scenario is they're taking it, taking what they want for themselves, and then they're going to list and resell the rest of it. And maybe they need that little extra bit of income, or who cares what happens with it, because, or how much they make off of it, because they're getting it back into use. And that time of getting something back into use is valuable, right? To all of us. That's why some people don't want to spend the time to list it, because it takes time and you have to ship something and make sure it's clean and answer people's questions
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
do all
with
of that sort of stuff.
the
Well, yeah,
questions.
measuring things. Right. And that's why it's a job, right?
Yeah, oh,
So
for
so
sure,
you
for
can link up with
sure.
somebody who resells in your area and they'll come pick it up for you for free, right? And some
Mm.
people, depending on what you have, will even pay you for it, right? So you can, that's how I work actually, is like what I do is that I will purchase outright from people in bulk. So they'll say, hey, here's all the stuff I have. I assess all of it together and I say, okay, this person doesn't realize this stains on this or holes on this or this or that. This depletes the value of this or that, whatever. But I'm not going to go over every single item because it's too much of their time and too much of mine, right? So I basically say, hey, okay, so for all of these items here, I can give you $300. I would say 99% of the time they're like, oh my gosh, great. Thank you so much. I was just going to
It's
donate it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I take it, I make sure it's clean and I photograph it, I list it, I steam it, I show it to people, I answer the questions, I sell it, I ship it out. I, do all of the accounting for it, etc. But they have to never ever see it or think about it again. They get a one-time payment and it's out of their house. And if there is stuff in there that needs to just be donated or needs to be recycled or whatever, I do that then, right? They don't have to worry about sorting it out or figuring any of that out. So there are a lot of people in different areas. And if anybody needs help connecting to somebody like that in their area, you can feel free to reach out to me. I would be so happy to find somebody for you. Or if you are near me, or if you have certain stuff that I take in to buy, I'd be happy to send them a shipping label and they can ship it to me and then I will pay them out for it. So, yeah.
I love that. I love, love, love that. I love that because when we buy new items or when we feel like we need something new, I like to say, what can you get rid of if you're going to bring something new in? And if you're like me, I just keep a running bag of stuff of like, oh
Mhm.
my God, that has a hole in it now. Or, this was too big on me and it's not too big on me anymore. Now it's too tight. I put that stuff away and I don't know anyone in my specific area who's a reseller, but now I will certainly find out because it's too easy to go and drop it at Goodwill. And then you're actually doing it's actually worse to do that because your stuff isn't going to be hanging there the next day. And that's the
Yeah.
impression that we get.
Right. And I go with the idea that I want to have the best chance of getting back into reuse, right? And when you give it to somebody who's going to be incentivized to clean it or repair it so that they can sell it, it's more likely it's going to get back into use. If you put it into Goodwill, things that have holes, stains, etc., are much less likely to get purchased. And especially with their increased pricing strategies, it really makes those things even less desirable. So I think putting it into the hands of an individual is a lot better. I think it just gives it a better chance of being reused.
I can't even believe it how much time has gone by already. I haven't even asked you half the shit I wanted to ask you. Okay. This is so interesting. Okay, give us, please, can you speak to some trends that are selling for you right now? Things that maybe people are asking for? What do you see are hot sellers?
I feel like they're kind of the same around this time of year every single time, and that's like leather boots, boots with high heels. Um, People want nice warm coats, of course, because they're like, oh, it's getting cold,
Hmm.
and I need something new or whatever it may be. Jeans sell year round, so you've got good denim. Denim sells year round. I see still a lot of the like oversized jeans selling, still not
Hmm.
many skinny jeans. I know that they're supposed to come back, but not quite in the resale world. I see a lot of um, jewelry and stuff selling, like a lot of gold jewelry, especially like simple and like chic, kind of like timeless styles are selling very well right now. And wintertime is always a weird time, I think, for resale because people usually buy their winter coats in the fall, and fall wardrobes kind of drip over into winter. And once the holidays are over, people usually around this time aren't buying for anything unless it's like essentials that they really need or vacation stuff, right? And then once February hits and kind of comes around, you see some more dresses and such selling. And then, March hits and everybody's like, oh, it's spring, even though it's not spring yet, but they'll be like, oh, it's spring, even though it's cold. So people really start then buying shorts and dresses and frilly things and light coats and trenches. Trench coats always sell.
Can you
Cashmere sweaters always sell.
Can you speak to the sizes that you offer? Do you have inclusive sizing or tell
Yeah.
us? Okay.
I sell all sizes. I do find that it is much harder to get quality pieces to resell in plus sizes. I think that that is a double-edged sword of there just not being very many quality items out there to purchase that are plus size. Not a lot of brands cater to that still to this day. So not a lot of things make it onto the resale market. I've spoken to a lot of my friends who are plus size, and they basically tell me if I find something I really like, I'm wearing it to death. Like I'm wearing it forever. So things like that, even if they're donated or come across my way, they're not really in resellable condition. So usually when I do find stuff, it's, if I can find it new with tags, and that generally means it just didn't fit somebody or something like that. But I have all the way from, double zeros and extra, extra smalls, all the way to, I think the largest size I have in stock right now is a size 30, 32. So a little bit of everything.
I love that. Tell us what projects you're working on right now.
Right now, I am working on still whittling down my inventory, so I no longer have a storage unit after my shop front. It's taking a lot longer than expected, and I just want to kind of be more streamlined. So that is at the top of my line right now for what I'm doing. But the second thing is I'm writing a book about my experiences in reselling, in particular in conjunction with reselling on Poshmark and like the Poshmark community and things that have happened throughout that journey, which has been really weird and
How is
interesting.
Poshmark doing? Are they still one of the top resellers or what's
Yeah, yeah, definitely, especially for fashion, 100%. They're still doing very well. They had a little misstep in the fall where they tried to change the system of how you pay fees, and they were putting half of it on the buyer and then half of it on the seller, and then it was just like, to me, it was an absolute disaster and a mess. And I guess the data also proved that, and they walked it back like 6 weeks later, I think, or 3 weeks later. It was very quick that they walked it back. Um, Ultimately, I think it was costing people a lot more money.
Hmm.
So they had a little misstep there. Anytime the algorithm changes on Poshmark for something new coming, it is a little painful for a moment because it has to catch back up and get you back to where you need to be in the algorithm. But overall, no, I still think that they're doing very well. I do a lot of live sales on there, which I think a lot of people who need measurements for stuff really like to shop because they can ask for live measurements. So,
I love that. I
yeah.
I know Poshmark is very strong in community and they really care what people think and they want to make it user friendly. So I know they were one of the first in the game and now they're not the only, in the game. What are some other, besides your site, Fashion Without Trashin, what are some other resale sites that you think are doing well when it comes to what they're selling and selling quality products?
Whatnot is certainly one of them. This has come about as a live selling only basically platform. And I would say that there are some sellers on there doing very, very well. It seems to be a lot of overstock. So you can find a lot of things
Mm.
that are new with tags. My personal gripe with shopping that way is that most of the sellers do it at random. So they just pull an item up at random. So you never know if it's
Hmm.
going to be something you like and you never know if it's going to be in your size. Right. And then you could also be outbid depending on how many people are in there. So it can be fun if you want to do it in a leisurely way for fun. For shopping for specific things, I think it can be a bit more difficult because it's better to go the route of just searching for it, like on a Poshmark or on an eBay, be able
Hmm.
to find the item you want and then purchase it, right? Or put an offer in on it, versus sort of rolling the dice and taking a chance of finding something when coming on whatnot. But you can find, I would say it's a really good place to get like stuff for your kids, like your teenagers and early 20s and stuff, because there are a lot of brands like, the Revolve stuff's on there, American Eagle and Skims, stuff like that. So you can go on and buy a lot of stuff for them if you're shopping for multiple sizes. I think that it's can be really good. eBay, of course, is around. It's a bit of a dinosaur, but it's still there. It's really good for finding rare pieces like fashion archival type pieces and stuff, but you're going to pay a decent price for it, of course. You have Vestiaire, which is similar in that sense that it's mostly only high-end items. They
Right.
actually,
Very high end.
yeah, they actually banned the resale of fast fashion on their site and did a whole like marketing campaign around it. I'm against that actually. I think that once it exists, we should resell it
I
because
totally agree with you
it's
because it's already there, it's already bought. Why would you not
right.
want to That's the whole point.
Right. I mean, I get it doesn't sell for very much. I think that, you know, to me, it came off a little bit snooty.
Hmm.
And well, I mean, I guess the real is that way too, right? Except
Yeah.
that you send it in instead. The real is still good. Again, pretty expensive though. Um, Searching on Poshmark or on eBay and stuff, you can get really lucky and find something at a much cheaper
I
price than the
agree.
other places.
I
You can get a little
agree.
lucky on the Real too, but you then have to pay for their like 24-hour early access pass, and
Oh.
it's that kind of turns shopping into like a chore in a sense. Like I like it to be a little bit more fun and leisurely.
The bottom line is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's plenty of ways to shop and find new things without going to the mall, without going to the lowest hanging fruit, without feeling like you can go, God forbid, on Amazon or somewhere like that and get something quick to wear this weekend. There's a lot of other ways that you can do good and actually make a difference without and get something for a cheaper price because who
Well, you can even rent
cares?
things. If it's a last minute situation, you can even rent something.
Yes.
Um, and but I get it. There are some situations where none of those are going to be options, and finding something last minute and you need delivered overnight, there's only going to be one way to do that, and that is shopping on Amazon, right? So I understand that it serves a place in the market. Um, but if you can't avoid it, then I think it's better to avoid it, obviously. But if you can't and it's an emergency, then no judgment, like
I,
it happens.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. But if
Yeah.
you try and you have time, there's plenty of other ways. I want you,
Yeah. And you'll find more interesting stuff.
for
Yeah.
sure. I want you to give us like a mantra or like a truth bomb or something that you live by that you can inspire us by.
Um, I was trying to think of something earlier and I was like so stumped.
Well, you can come
I
back to
mean,
it. What I say is if I look at pictures of you from 15 years ago and you look exactly the same, you're stuck. You're stuck in a
oh yeah.
style rut. You need to do something different, change up your hair, change up your hair color, wear a crazy color that you wouldn't wear, do something different.
Yeah.
That's my mantra because you don't want to look the same. You don't want to be predictable. You want people to, you want to keep people guessing.
Yeah.
So if you think of
Yeah.
something, you can let us know. But
I guess kind of like a life mantra of mine or like something I live by is that, if I'm always being honest, I never have to worry about being caught in a lie. Like I never have to, and I think that's something that's really helped me with social media because when there have been some really vitriolic people that have been on social media and who want to like find something on you or push this thing against you and I'm like, if you never do anything to like for them to prove or for them to say, haha, whatever. It's like, if you don't just stay honest and you don't have to worry about any of it, it'll all pass. And there's never going to be some smoking gun, like coming for you. So I'm like, I'll just be chill.
I love that. How can we find you, Jade?
So you can find me on Instagram at Fashion Without Trashin. My Poshmark name is a little bit different. It's Ornamental Stone, and that's where I do my live sales and have most of my things for sale. But I do sell through my Instagram as well. YouTube is Fashion Without Trashin, though I don't use it very much.
Mhm.
LinkedIn is Jade Myers, and yeah, I think that's all the places.
This has been so exciting. I have so much more. I have like 8 more questions to ask you, and we're out of time. So, will you come back?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, of course.
This has been great. We love to learn about sustainability, how we can keep our closet from turning into a fast fashion junkyard, how we can
Yeah.
shop and be, within the realms of life beyond the mall. And we love that you have chosen to spend this time with us to inspire us to really try to shop with intention, which is, I think, is your underlying message. And
Yeah.
even though you
Shop for what
might,
you love, whatever makes
right.
you happy,
And
wear it. And don't
even if
wait for the occasion. Plan
even
it.
if you don't know what you're looking for, even if you go on your Poshmark, see what she has, see what she recommends, see what's in stock, see what's selling. And it is so important to keep this movement going so we can try to save what the damage that has already been done.
Yeah.
And it's important that we support women owned small brands. We are women supporting women, and we love so much what you're doing. And thank you so much for
Thank
what you're
you.
doing and inspiring us. This has been the Fashion Crimes Podcast. I am Holly Cates, your favorite personal stylist. And as always, always scouting out women owned brands that are changing the fashion industry for the better. And that's what Jade Myers is doing, fashion without trashing. We will be on your site ASAP.
Thank you, Holly. You're so sweet. Thank you.
And listen, we've got a lot of great interviews coming up. We've got some spotlights coming up. So please join us next week. Check out our Instagram and consider signing up for our newsletter because then you'll get all this free fashion content delivered straight to your inbox every single week. Y'all have a fabulous, fabulous fashionable week. And thank you so much again, Jade. We love you. We will
Thank
see
you.
you
Thanks for having me.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.